Hey guys, Chad here with the Reptile Rangers. Now we're at the Kernersville Reptile Zoo and Medical Center today, and we're going to talk about kind of breaking an old myth that's been around for years and years and years. Something that people still teach need to be done, but it's absolutely ludicrous and false. There's no reason to do it at all, okay? But before we get into this, right here in this corner, right over there, I think it is the subscriber button, okay? Make sure to hit that if you have not done so already, and if you have, we appreciate you following along week after week after week. Now let's take something like this ball python here, okay? The ball python is one of the most widely bred snakes in captivity for the pet trade. For one, they're an awesome snake. They're known as a pet rock. They do hardly nothing most of the time. They are a nocturnal species, and so it makes them really good for kids and adults and teens and folks that want something that, like us, when we're working with animals that want to kill us all the time, and we want to play with something that is a little bit more laid back, this is a great option. We call them pet rocks or pet paperweights. But one of the old myths that has been out there for years and years and years is you need to feed them in a separate enclosure. That is absolutely false, and you need to stop teaching that stupidity, okay? The whole reason back in the 70s and 80s, and even in the early 90s, when people were taking and moving their snakes into different enclosures, their adults, was because in breeding facilities, they weren't handling their animals. So the old ideology come from is they acclimated their enclosure with food every time you open the cage up. And of course, a lot of the times, remember, these were rack systems with tubs. So every time they opened a tub up, that snake was wanting to strike because the only time the tub ever opened up was either for food or for filling up the water dish. They were never handling the animals. But in a pet scenario, one of the things that stupid pet stores keep teaching that is absolutely false is take your snake and put it into what they call a feeding bin. Well, the biggest problem is anybody that's ever bred ball pythons knows that a lot of your baby ball pythons, to get them started eating, can be very difficult to begin with. They're a pain in the butt. So, and then not to mention the fact they're a real stressy snake. The whole point of the ball, the whole point of curling up into a ball like this, is for comfort. And so as soon as you mess with a baby ball python, most of the time you take and mess with it, you put it into another pen, it's instantly stressed out. And of course, I took a call, matter of fact, I take a lot of calls like this, but I was talking to a friend of mine and she's like, you know what, that makes perfect sense as to why we can't get a lot of the snakes inside of this store to eat, because when we go and we touch them and we put them into another pen and they curl up into a ball and they want to stay there. Now, once these animals are adults, yeah, it's not a big deal. You can move them around and they instantly, or generally speaking, will be interested in food once they smell it. But again, these are from Africa. They don't leave Africa to go somewhere else to eat. They stay in their home territory, okay? They feel more comfortable in their habitat. So feed your animal in there. The main thing is that if you're going to feed inside of your habitat, make sure you're handling more than you're feeding. They just get used to more of the handling versus the only time the cage ever opens is when food is coming in. Of course, then the only time they're going to expect the cage to be opening is expecting food. So you're going to swing at whatever has a warm signature, like these guys that have the heat receptacles. There's warm signature and moves like food and is small. The hand is a smaller object than the whole body. So they see the finger, they see the hand, they see whatever, and it's got that warm glowing signature, that good body heat. Yeah, okay, it's food until otherwise tasted. All right, so the old myth of you need to put your snake into a different enclosure to feed it, really that garbage needs to go so far out the window. That junk is so old, and it was an old school mentality, and the only reason that mentality came to fruition was from the foolishness of the breeders not really ever handling. And again, don't get me wrong, I mean, breeders can't always handle 200, 300, 400 snakes. Yes, we understand that. But the old teaching adage of if you feed them in their enclosure, they're going to become cage aggressive is 100% completely false. They can be just as aggressive outside the cage as they can inside the cage. They can be just as calm outside the cage as they can inside the cage. But in the case of a lot of your species, like baby corn snakes, baby ball pythons, especially some of your more stressy species of arboreal snakes, if you start messing with them and start trying to put them in a different enclosure and feed them, they're never going to eat. So you're going to end up having an animal that's going to starve itself to death. All right, now, again, this is Chad. This is Basically, this is just debunking the myth of moving and feeding your snake in a different enclosure that you have to do that. No, you don't. We appreciate you following along. We hope you've enjoyed this. Hopefully this has been helpful. Make sure to hit the subscribe, the like, make sure to hit the bell for notifications. Our information will be in the description below. For those that need to get in touch with us, we're taking calls all the time. If you have something you want us to film on, we're trying to get caught up on those as much as we can. Feel free to write us in and let us know. Again, this is Chad. We are the Reptile Rangers here at the Kernersville Reptile Zoo and Medical Center. We appreciate you following along. We'll either see you at the zoo or we'll see you here at on the next episode. Later.